Breasia disappeared in July of 2020 while spending the night at Dinkins' Davenport home with her half-brother. No one knew for certain what happened to her until 10 months later when fishermen found her remains near DeWitt in Clinton County.
On the morning of July 10, 2020, the city of Davenport, Iowa awoke to the devastating news that 10-year-old Breasia Terrell had vanished without a trace. A bright and loving child, Breasia had spent the night at her brother's home, unaware that this ordinary evening would take a horrifying turn. For 8 agonizing months, her family and the community searched desperately for answers, only for their worst fears to be confirmed when her remains were found in a remote area. The man responsible, Henry Dinkins, her own father, was someone she should have been able to trust. Welcome to Urban Crime Stories. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for upcoming episodes. Breasia Terrell was born in December 2009 in Davenport, Iowa to Aisha Langford. She was a bright and loving child who brought joy to those around her. Breasia had a half-brother named Detorius, whose father was Henry Dinkins. She was also surrounded by a close-knit family including her stepmother Amber Harrington and several other close family members. Those who knew Breasia described her as wise beyond her years, with a natural ability to uplift others and bring smiles to their faces. Her warmth and kindness left a lasting impression on the people in her life. Breasia enjoyed a childhood filled with activities that reflected her curiosity and playful spirit. She had a love for basketball, often spending time playing with friends and family. She also found joy in coloring, letting her creativity shine through in every stroke of her crayons. Like many children her age, Breasia enjoyed watching videos, immersing herself in entertainment that sparked her imagination. She was a student at Jackson Elementary School, where she was known for her sincerity. To those around her, life seemed normal, and Breasia was thriving in the love and support of her family. She was a young girl full of dreams, laughter, and the innocence of childhood. Her days were spent engaging in the things she loved, surrounded by people who cared for her. She had a bright future ahead, and nothing seemed out of place. However, the stability and happiness in her life would be abruptly disrupted, leading to an unimaginable tragedy. On July 10, 2020, everything changed. What began as an ordinary day would soon become the start of a heartbreaking and devastating turn of events. The innocence and joy that once defined Breasia's life were suddenly overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. In just a matter of moments, the world of a 10-year-old girl was thrown into chaos. The events of that day would leave her family and community in shock, searching for answers to the unthinkable. Breasia was last seen in the early hours of July 10, 2020. She was wearing a white t-shirt, shorts, and white or pink flip-flops when she vanished without a trace. Her last known location was in the streets of Davenport, Iowa. Just a day before, she had spent the night with her father, Henry Dinkins, and her half-brother at Dinkins' girlfriend's apartment. The apartment, located on East 53rd Street in Davenport, was a place where Breasia had been before. She had a close bond with her half-brother and was eager to spend time with him. Her mother, Aisha Langford, had no reason to suspect that anything was amiss. There was nothing unusual about Breasia staying there for the night. The last communication Aisha had with her daughter was a text message exchange that evening. Breasia had been playing video games, enjoying what seemed to be an ordinary night. Before going to bed, she sent her mother a short but loving message. "Good night, Mama. I love you." Aisha never imagined that those words would be the last she would ever receive from her daughter. It was a simple exchange, one that happened many times before, but this time, it marked the final connection between them. Breasia's world was about to change, and so was her mother's. The next morning, Aisha received a call from Henry Dinkins. His words were alarming. He claimed that Breasia had disappeared. At first, Aisha thought it was a joke. It didn't make sense to her. Breasia wasn't the kind of child who would wander off, especially in the middle of the night. "At first, I laughed because it sounded like a joke," Aisha later recalled. But as the seconds passed, the reality of the situation began to sink in.
Family.
I've called everybody. I have my uncle out riding around. My mom's on the way out here. My friends on their way out here.
We've been everywhere. And she's gonna be with a friend.
I never.
Breasia was gone, and no one seemed to know where she was. Panic set in as Aisha tried to process the unthinkable. How could her daughter vanish without a trace? The idea of a child disappearing into the night was terrifying. It was completely out of character for Breasia. She would never leave on her own, especially not in the dark. As the hours passed, dread grew. Where could she be? How could a 10-year-old girl simply vanish? The questions were overwhelming, and the answers were nowhere to be found. The heartbreak of a missing child is unimaginable. When someone disappears, the uncertainty can be unbearable. But when that person is a young and defenseless child, the pain is even deeper. The search for Breasia would soon begin, and as her family and community came together, the hope of finding her safe and sound remained strong. But with each passing hour, fear crept in. The reality that something terrible had happened was becoming harder to ignore. As soon as Breasia was reported missing, the Davenport Police Department launched an investigation to determine her whereabouts. From the very beginning, authorities focused their attention on Henry Dinkins. On the same day Breasia disappeared, Dinkins was named a person of interest in her case. However, there was not enough immediate evidence to charge him in connection with her disappearance. Instead, law enforcement pursued him on unrelated charges, leading to a swift arrest. Warrants were issued, and Dinkins was taken into custody, but questions surrounding Breasia's fate remained unanswered. On July 10, 2020, the day Breasia vanished, Dinkins was booked on sex offender registration and probation violation charges. His criminal past quickly came to light, raising even more concerns. Authorities issued an Amber Alert for Breasia on July 15th, officially listing Dinkins as her alleged abductor. Despite this, he was still not charged in relation to her disappearance. Dinkins' history was troubling. He was a registered sex offender with a conviction dating back to 1990. At just 17 years old, he had been found guilty of third-degree sexual abuse involving a girl under the age of 14. This past conviction intensified fears about what may have happened to Breasia, as investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. Aisha Langford strongly believed that Dinkins knew exactly what had happened to their daughter. Her suspicions grew after a jailhouse phone call, where she claimed he broke down in a way she had never seen before. "I've known him for 11 years, and I've never seen him show that kind of emotion," she later recalled. Langford confronted him, telling him that he would never find peace until Breasia was brought home. But despite her pleas, Dinkins remained silent about what he knew, leaving Breasia's family and the community in agonizing uncertainty. For nearly 8 months, local and federal authorities searched for Breasia. Every passing day without answers deepened the family's heartbreak. Volunteers, law enforcement officers, and members of the community scoured different locations, hoping for any sign of the missing girl. Flyers were distributed, searches were conducted, and pleas for information continued. But no matter how hard they looked, there were no immediate breakthroughs. It was a painful waiting game, filled with desperation and dwindling hope. Then, on March 22, 2021, the search for Breasia came to a devastating end. In DeWitt, Iowa, about 20 miles from where she was last seen, a group of people out fishing stumbled upon human remains. Among them was a skull. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, and within days, forensic testing confirmed what many had feared. Breasia Terrell had been found. The little girl who had once been full of life had suffered an unimaginable fate. The search was over, but the heartbreak was just beginning. The remains, which included a skull, were in an advanced state of decomposition. Authorities swiftly conducted an autopsy, which confirmed the identity of the remains as Breasia Terrell. The medical examination also revealed the harrowing truth: Breasia had been shot.
Today, we're hearing from the doctor who performed Breasia's autopsy. Forensic pathologist Dr. Kelly Cruz discovered a bullet in Breasia's hair. She credits that placement to Breasia being shot in the jaw, the bullet going through the jawbone, exiting into her hair.
With this tragic discovery, the search for answers turned into a pursuit of justice. Dinkins, who had remained in custody on unrelated charges, was formally charged with Breasia's murder. The heartbreaking end to Breasia's case left her family shattered, and a community mourning the loss of an innocent 10-year-old girl. Prosecutors argued that Henry Dinkins took Breasia Terrell to a remote site where he sexually assaulted and murdered her. They presented evidence suggesting that he deliberately targeted the 10-year-old girl and took steps to cover up his crime. However, the defense contended that there was no physical evidence directly linking Dinkins to Breasia's sexual assault and murder. Despite this argument, key witness testimony and digital evidence painted a damning picture of Dinkins' actions on the night of July 9th and the early morning hours of July 10th, 2020. During the trial, Breasia's younger brother testified about what he had seen that night. He recalled waking up during the sleepover to find that both his father, Dinkins, and his sister were gone. Hours later, just before 6 a.m., Dinkins returned and picked him up, taking him to a local Walmart. Surveillance footage confirmed Dinkins' purchase of bleach before he drove to a location that would later be identified as the site where Breasia's remains were found. Investigators also used cell phone data to track his movements, which further corroborated the timeline. Andrea Culberson, Dinkins' girlfriend at the time, also testified against him. She stated that she woke up in the middle of the night and found that both Dinkins and Breasia were missing. At around 3:30 a.m., Dinkins returned to the apartment wearing different clothes, an observation that raised further suspicions. Culberson also reported seeing Breasia standing outside the apartment next to Dinkins' car before he left again. Notably, Dinkins departed without his cell phone and did not return until around 5:45 a.m., when he came back to pick up his son. These details, combined with digital evidence, further implicated him in Breasia's disappearance and murder. On September 15, 2023, following a bench trial, Dinkins was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. A month later, on October 11, 2023, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. The sentencing hearing took place in Davenport, Iowa, where the judge handed down the maximum penalty allowed under the law. Given the nature of the crime, Dinkins' extensive criminal history, and his lack of remorse, the court determined that consecutive life sentences were necessary to ensure he would never be released. During the sentencing hearing, Breasia's mother, Aisha Langford, delivered an emotional victim impact statement.
You didn't just take away my baby's life, you took away everything from me. My family's sense of security, laughs, health, and potential. You took my baby girl from me.
She made it clear that she could never forgive Dinkins for what he had done. There is no closure, and there is no justice in this case, she stated. Her pain was evident as she directly addressed Dinkins, demanding answers about her daughter's final moments. She asked whether Breasia had been scared, whether she had begged for her life, questions that would likely never be answered. Beyond the life sentences, the court ordered Dinkins to pay $150,000 in restitution to Breasia's mother. The judge emphasized that the severity of the crime, combined with Dinkins' past offenses, made it essential to protect society from him. While the conviction and sentencing provided a legal resolution, they could never erase the immense loss suffered by Breasia's loved ones. The tragic case of Breasia Terrell serves as a painful reminder of the devastating impact of violent crimes against children and the lasting scars they leave behind. Thank you for watching this episode. Please share your thoughts about this heartbreaking case in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you on Urban Crime Stories.